Welcome back to our series Drawing with Inkscape. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to use the Tracing Bitmaps feature. The Bitmaps feature interprets a black and white bitmap and produces a set of curves that we can then manipulate. The tracer has three different types of input filters to convert from the raw image to something that the trace can use. So we are going to look through all of those filters. To start, we need to import a graphic. So I'm going to import this pig face and let's just resize it to fit on the canvas. Alright, now the object is selected in the selector. So if I go to Path, Trace Bitmap, you'll see that a menu opens with different options here. So the first option I want to show you is Brightness Cutoff. Now, the threshold is set to 0.45. So what will happen when we click on OK, the light images or the light part of the graphic will not be traced, only the dark will. And what you see here is the result of that. It only picked up the dark on my original image. Now, if I delete this and bring my original back to the canvas and I go over here and I boost that threshold higher, so let's go up to 8 for example, then it's going to trace more of the image. So when I click on OK, you'll see now that I've got a image that is much more traced. There's a lot more black here. So you can play with the threshold and determine what amount of darkness you want to have in your particular image. All right, let's delete that. Now select again and let's look at edge detection. As you could imagine from the word edge detection is going to trace the outline of the image. So if I click on that, click on OK, again, what I see is I've done a trace of the basic outline of the image. And then of course I could play with this and add different fill color or whatever. Alright, so that's how edge detection works. Now the third image or a third option, filter, is the color quantization. So if I click on that, I can get an image that kind of looks like a combination between the brightness cutoff and the edge detection. It's picked up the edges, but it's also picked up some of the darkness inside, and so that's another option for tracing. Now the final thing I want to show you is what happens when we do an invert image. So again, if I click on my object and click on Invert Image and click on OK, then you see what I've got here is an inverted image. All right, now let's move this out of the way. What might we want to use this for? Well, for example, we might want to have a different color in the background. So let me build a square here or some kind of rectangular shape. I've already selected it to fill with green. If I move this on, go to selector. If I move this on top, then you see what happens, and we could adjust this so it fits, snap to each other. And what you see now is we've got a different background color in this particular shape. So that might be something else that you would be interested in doing with an inverted image. And that's basically it. There are other things that you could try with this. For example, the map exercise that you have due this week, you might want to try using the the trace bitmap feature for that. I tried it with maps from MapQuest and wasn't very successful because the level of resolution wasn't really high enough. But um, other than that, there are other tools out there that you might be able to use to find better maps. The other thing I guess that I should point out is when we do have one of these objects, if we could move to the node editor and I click on this, well, I have to get my background out of the way first, so I can operate or at least be on the level of this. Okay, so let's see now if I click on the map, the image, you see all of these nodes now that are part of it, the graphic, because it's a vector graphic. And why is that important? Well, I can edit my image if I want. For example, I could change the shape of the eyes, making sure I click on a white instead of a black. Um, could change the shape of the mouth. So in other words, I can do some artistic work with this as well, because these are all going to work basically like a Bezier curve. All right. And also, if I want to have fewer nodes, I can go to Path Simplify, and notice the number of nodes is now reduced, and it maybe is a little bit easier to work with. All right. That's it for tracing bitmaps.